You ready for this?
Yep.
Welcome to the 37th episode of the J&J podcast. My name is John.
And I'm Joe.
And,
Well,
guys, this is really hard to talk about. And, Joe, since this is kind of your doing, I'm gonna give the mic to you, and you can kind of explain what's going on, and we'll talk about it from there.
yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's with a heavy heart, and a real heavy heart, that I have to announce the ending of the J&J podcast. This will be the 37th and final episode, and it is my fault due to technical difficulties on my end, and also various spiritual things that I'm going through. I need to take a break. It doesn't mean that I don't love you guys. It doesn't mean that I don't wanna do this with John. It just life came up, and I have to quit. And I told John that I wouldn't be upset at all if he got a new co-host. But he won't do that because he's my true and loyal friend. And he said he would never have a J&J podcast without me. And so it is with a heavy heart that is our announcement for this.
Yeah, so that is the big announcement, and believe me, I fought tooth and nail every day about this. I am completely against this. I'm not happy about it. It sucks because I really enjoy doing this podcast each and every week. Words can't explain how much I love this. And Joseph and I have provided over 27 hours of talking to you guys. 37 podcasts, never missing a week, and even giving in some bonus episodes that calculate over to 27 hours of talking. And that is just, it's a lot. And trust me when I say, when I started this podcast, I wanted this to go on for years and years and years and years and years, because I love this. I love being able to talk to my best friend, and I love allowing a microphone in so we can, so you guys can listen in. And my only goal throughout this entire podcast was just to simply make people laugh. I want to make people happy. I want to make people entertained, and it really sucks that we're stopping.
Yeah, I'm with John. I really am disappointed about how things have turned out. I would really love to continue doing this. We love you guys. And yeah.
You know, the show is the J&J podcast. It's the John and Joe podcast, or Joe and John, whatever way you
Joe
want.
and John.
And I don't have another best friend. I have other people I consider my best friends, but there's nobody who's been in my life longer than Joe, and there's nobody in my life that I can be as close and as open, as honest to as Joe. And to be able to pull off this type of podcast where we've talked for 27 hours just in the public eye, I don't know if I'd be able to do it with anyone else. Now, I do have, with this type of show, is what I'm saying, is the idea of two best friends talking, knowing the ins and outs of one another. I wouldn't be able to do this with another person. I would never do it with another person. That doesn't mean I'm stopping podcasting, because I do love doing the podcast every week. I enjoy doing that. And I do have a few ideas in my head for a couple of different shows that I'd like to start. And who knows, Joe may come on as a guest. I don't think you'd be totally closed mind to that. Would you, Joe, if I started another podcast?
No, not at all, not at all. And please realize, folks, that I love you too. I love doing this too. Are you about to cry, John?
No.
Oh, okay. You looked like you were about to cry for a second. I was going to say.
No.
But I would really enjoy doing. I really enjoy doing this, and the thing is, and let me be completely honest with you guys, that the only reason why I feel like I have to stop and call it quits on this is simply because it's the direction the Lord's leading me. but it is in no way something that I want to do, and it's with such a heavy heart. And I hope John can hear it in my voice that really is what it boils down to. And that I would really like, I want to publicly apologize to my best friend. Because John, you are my best friend. And we've been through so much together. And, you know, the fans only hear 27 hours of it. But I feel like if we had if we had a tape recorder for the last 8 years, man, that would be a podcast and a half, man. You know, you're not mad at me, John. I want you to know, man, you're my best friend. You know, I can honestly say, aside from Jesus, you know, you're the only person that I want by my side.
Thank you, and I do think it's important to make it clear that, you know, Joseph and I are still best friends. We're not going to stop talking to each other at all. You know, this pod. I would say, open and honestly, this podcast has nothing to do with breaking our friendship or breaking the podcast over. The podcast that I originally set out to go is because I am the person that called up Joe and asked him to do a podcast with me. I think it's fair to say that I created this podcast. And
legitimate.
And I wanted a podcast where I could be me and Joe could be him, and you have these two opposites, you know, kind of go head to head on different issues and topics and whatnot. And I thought it would make for a great show, and it did. The numbers prove it. It's really hard to do this. And what you guys don't even know is that, you know, you hear a podcast weekly that's between 45 minutes and an hour, hour and a half, every week. But what you don't know is the amount of stuff that's cut out of those podcasts. I could probably make another 15 episodes if I just put in all the stuff. 15 hour-long episodes. If I just took all the content that I have that was cut out. I mean, would you say that's fair, Joe?
I'd say that's more than fair. Honestly, I think it'd be a little bit more than just 15 episodes.
Right. So there is a lot of stuff that's been cut out of these podcasts because mostly because Joe didn't feel like it was appropriate. You know, I've said since day one, and I stand by it, that I'm a very controversial person. I love talking about controversial topics, and I love making jokes about things that most people wouldn't joke about. And I still stand by that. It's
And John, I want you to know that I wouldn't change you for the world, man. Honestly, I'd be disappointed if you weren't controversial and inappropriate.
Right, and it's not that Joe doesn't find it funny. I would say Joe finds about 90% of the things I find funny, and not once do I ever make fun of the Lord either. None of it is making fun of Jesus Christ or the Lord or anything like that. It's things that he feels like, though, aren't appropriate for listeners to hear in the public eye. I think Joseph feels it's more okay to listen to in a private conversation when it's just the two of us, but when it comes down to being kind of a figure, putting that stuff out there is not the greatest ideas. And although I respectfully disagree, I take all of that out before you guys even hear it. Basically, every podcast, what I attempted to do was say what I wanted to say, and then Joe would tell me what he wanted out, and I would cut out what he says he wants out. So I try to, you know, put in as much as I could, but at the end of the day, a lot of what I said was cut out because of those reasons, and it made the podcast much more difficult to do.
Yeah, and I want to also point out that that's another, like, I apologize to you for that, John. And that was a factor in my decision because of stopping the podcast, because I realized it wasn't fair to do that to you. That if, you know, by trying to censor you, I was trying to censor, in fact, my best friend, and you are my best friend. You know, I wouldn't change you for the world.
Thank you, and I wouldn't change you either. Come on,
John. When we're walking down the street and we see like a bunch of people, I'm like, let's talk about Jesus with them. Are you telling me you wouldn't change that just a little bit?
I'd rather you say, let's go pick up those girls, but but stop choking. Stop choking. You're annoying.
Don't tell me what to do with my life, John.
It's been incredibly. I trust me. I have fought tooth and nail to get this podcast to continue going. But at the end of the day, you can't physically force someone to stay and do a weekly podcast with you if they don't feel suited. And so that's why the podcast is ending. We might come back for one more episode for Staten Island Podfest. We might. We were building the festival, and of course Joseph and I were going to perform at it. And it would have been the first live podcast, that we've done. And what kind of happened was the venue we were going to have it at was #bar, and they shut down. So that kind of put a halt to Podfest, and then this whole thing kind of happened. So it's
and that was also, and John, that was also part of my decision, because at first I wasn't going to break the podcast at all. I was going to get through. My plan was get through Podfest, and then we would do some reevaluations. Maybe take like a seasonal break and come back. But then you told me, like, you kind of said that like Podfest fell apart. And so with all of that also was kind of a contributing factor to me saying, okay, like clearly the podcast is dying. And I think our numbers show that too. Like our numbers have been steadily decreasing within the last few months. And so to the fans who have stayed loyal, I just want to thank you guys.
Of course, and I want to thank you guys for that as well. Anybody who's continued to listen to every single episode, or even if you listen to it just a single episode. If this is your first time listening, I'm sorry.
Go back and listen to the others.
Go back and listen to the other 36 episodes, please. I do want to make it clear, though, that Podfest is not done. And what Joe just said was kind of a little misconstruing. The festival being delayed right now has nothing to do with the fact that it's our podcast. The venue itself shut down. We just chose a venue. We got unlucky when we chose our venue. What can I say?
I still vote for Mike Steiner as the venue.
And if we can find another place, it very might well be there. I chose # because they have a back room with a stage, lights, microphones. You can order food. You can order alcoholic drinks. It was a good place for everybody to come and drink and have fun. Yeah. So I didn't want to do this scripted because I didn't want to sound like a robot. It's just incredibly hard to record this because this is our last episode. This is our final podcast, with the exception of maybe one more reunited podcast at Staten Island Podfest, whenever that may be.
And also, and you know what, John? I don't even think that we should say that this is going to be permanently the last episode ever. Like I said, like for me, this is very much like this is me saying no for right now. But in the future, you never know what's going to happen. Like, ladies and gentlemen, if you truly and bluely want us back, email us back. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. If you're disappointed in it, and I hope you are, I would like for you to email us at podcast@jmadigan.com to let us know. We love doing this, though.
And John, John will say we, and then he'll say I, but I also want to say I really love doing this too. I honestly wouldn't. I mean, I wouldn't spend my time doing anything else, really.
The things we've had to do to make sure we get a weekly podcast to you every single week, for 2 college students is pretty hard. We don't deliver a 20-minute podcast. We deliver 45 minutes to an hour and a half of pure content.
Yeah. And there's so much that you guys don't see. I mean, and I think even for me and John, there's so many things for John that I don't see, and so many things that for me that John doesn't see.
Sure. One of the things I do want to do is I want to thank the list of people who have made appearances on our podcast in the past, who've taken a chance on us. And that list is Chad Carmen, Mark Fro Hungry, John Carrick, Joseph Carrick, Sean Ladden, James Astuto. Do we have any? And your father, Joey Vasallo. Do we have any more people, Joe?
I don't think so. I was about to ask who Sean was, but then I remembered he was the. Did we ever air that episode, John?
We did air a portion of his interview.
Oh my gosh.
feel like the fans deserve to know what was up with the Sean. Can we get sued for this, John?
No, we can't get sued. F it. Okay. All right. So we'll give this little tidbit. So if you go back, I believe it was our Transgendered and Confused episode, which was surprisingly very popular. Yeah, it was Transgendered and Confused. We talked to Sean and Paul over in Ireland, and they ran the petition to get Conor McGregor back on the UFC 200 card, which unfortunately was not successful. But he did fight at UFC 202 against Nate Diaz, and he beat Nate Diaz. So good for him. And by the way, the Facebook page has changed to the $1 billion fight, Conor McGregor versus Floyd Mayweather. So anyway, this Facebook page has right now 46,348 likes on Facebook. And so what I used to do was I would go online and follow pages that I like, and I would message the page and see if they wanted to come on the podcast, because obviously it would bring great exposure to our show, and it would also bring exposure to their cause.
Right,
so,
and that's how we got that. Just another tidbit. That's how we got Mark for Hungry.
Yes, we got Mark for Hungry from the Brickleberry page, brings Brickleberry for a 4th season Facebook page, and we messaged him, and now we're great friends with him. I talk to Mark at least once or twice a week now.
Yeah, I really like Mark. He's kind of one of my favorite. I mean, honestly, I really enjoyed him. I enjoy him as a person. He's really funny. I enjoy him as a guest host.
Yeah, no, Mark was great. I really hope to do more with him in the future, for sure, and other projects. He's a great guy. And so I contacted the Conor McGregor fan Facebook page, because I saw this page was generating just a lot of likes, and I wanted to see if maybe they wanted to talk about Conor McGregor, because Joseph is also a fan of his. And so this guy writes me back and says, yeah, we'll do it. And it wasn't until we got Sean, who runs the Facebook page, and his friend Paul, he brought his friend Paul around. It wasn't until they actually came into the call that we found out that they were underage. I thought I was talking about a grown man here, like me.
Now, wait a second, though. I have to tell the story from my perspective, because
Sure.
Right, so what you guys have to understand is that Chad Cartman and James Astuto were both my ideas for guest hosts. And the reason I chose them was because I know them.
Right.
Theoretically, you don't invite... Now, look, we just got lucky with Mark for Hungry and John and Joe. Right? Like, they happen to be really good guest stars. But generally, I don't feel comfortable inviting people that I don't know on my show, right? I'm very protective of the show. I brag about it. I mean, you have no idea.
Yeah, he brags about it. He ends it,
But anyway, and so what ends up happening is John calls me. He's like, yeah, I got this guy, Sean, to come on the podcast. I was like, okay, do you know him? And he was like, yeah, I messaged him on Facebook a few times. I was like, John, we don't know this guy. He was like, he'll be fine. I was like, all right. Mark for Hungry worked out well. We'll go with this guy, Sean. Right? And so they get on the podcast, and he's like, oh, my friend Paul's here, right? And I'm like, oh, okay, I thought we were only having one guest star tonight.
So did I.
Right? We find out, what were they? They were like 14 and 16?
Yeah, something like that. And
Basically, right, they're freaking older, like they need a diaper change, right? Right, and they were like, I don't know, were they drunk or just really, really not?
I don't want to call them drunk, because we don't know that they were drunk. They
fell asleep.
They weren't talking. That's why originally the idea was, whenever we have guests on, we have them on for the whole episode. We do maybe just a little bit of an interview in the beginning, and then we but we kind of have them just kind of join in with the topics we have. We want our guests to look at one of us, not some person that we're interviewing. Like, please tell us more about you. And so that was the original plan for Sean and Paul, to have them on, just kind of be with us. When we talk about Conor McGregor, we talk about other topics. These guys, they weren't receptive at all. They were barely talking. And while we're trying to do this, Joe and I are messaging each other on Facebook, like what the hell's going on? Like what?
And I just want to point out that was the last time guest host without my permission.
Yeah.
Right? Every other time he had to clear it with me.
Right. And so what we ultimately decided to do was we recorded a whole nother podcast. Just an entire hour-long podcast, and we put them we gave them about a 5-minute interview. We chopped it up to make it sound good, basically. And we put that right in the middle of Transgendered and Confused, so that way they still get their spotlight. And we, didn't have a very boring episode, but and who knows, maybe one day we'll release the files.
That was just the worst stuff. Like, guys, if we release that file, you have to understand you're not getting 45 minutes to an hour of comedy. You're getting 45 minutes of an hour to like two Irishmen who are just really not even men, two Irish boys who are just are really not perceptive. And at one point, John tries to fake god awful
Irish accent.
Right?
And that's when they woke up.
They got mad. I thought they were gonna start cursing you out, John. They were so mad.
And I gotta say, I didn't do it as an insult. Like, it wasn't. I love Conor McGregor, and I'm part Irish. I never did it as an insult. I was trying to just kind of imitate it, and they got really mad that I was imitating the Irish accent. Yeah, that kind of happened though. And maybe one day we'll release that audio.
That was great. That was funny.
Oh yeah, but
remember when we called up Netflix with Mark Fro Hungry?
Yes, all three of us called up Netflix. To bring Brickleberry back, and Joe had never seen Brickleberry, but the next time Mark came on, you did watch the first minute of Brickleberry.
Yeah, and I regret every second of it.
Now, would you be willing to watch the second minute?
No.
Do you want to describe what you saw in that first minute of Brickleberry?
Not really.
Okay, so I will. It was animals having sex with one another.
Kids listening. Remember, Joe listens.
Okay, they were fornicating.
The animals were doing what animals do. They were trying to reproduce. It was in cartoon format. It made me extremely uncomfortable.
Now, does that count as cartoon porn? Because it's with animals.
That's a real good question. I'm going to go with I don't know, and I really don't want to find out.
I think it depends if you get turned on or not.
That's a fair statement.
But yeah, so it's so hard to say, but the podcast is ending with the exception of one possible episode in the future at Staten Island.
And once again, I just want to make this clear to the fans. This is not goodbye. This is see you later.
Right? Yeah, I hope so.
Right? Like I feel like, and when time, because time's going to pass, John, right? And things are going to get different. Both of our perspectives are going to change. We're still going to be two wacky friends. Right? Who knows? Someday, years down the line, the show might reboot with, and we might have our kids with us.
Yeah.
The J&J podcast too. This time you have two Joes and two Johns.
That would be great. I would love that.
That would be great.
I do want to make it very clear, though, to our fans and our listeners that this is something I don't want. Me personally, John Madigan, does not want this podcast to end. I was so against this completely. There's not much more to say other than, and I'm just being totally transparent, that this is not something I wanted, and I really did work. I worked so hard to try and make this not to happen, and I do hope that you do. This podcast is going to end, and I really hope you do follow both Joseph and I online through our future projects and endeavors. Whatever the two of us both do, whether it be together or separate, I hope you do follow it, because we both need an audience for what we want to do. And, you followed us this far.
You guys so much. Like, don't blame yourselves. Mommy and Daddy still love you.
Yeah, Joseph's used to getting through divorce, so he doesn't blame himself. But
Below the belt, bro. Below the belt. At least both my parents love me.
I think I've earned this.
At least both my parents love me. Okay.
There you go. But yeah, so it sucks.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say other than it sucks. Joe,
my heart's heavy. And you can even, and John, I hope you saw this too, that I didn't just do this, right? I was like, let me pray about it. I spent days in prayer. I spent days in counsel, right? Like, and I really didn't want to do this. I felt like it was the only option that I had right now at this particular moment in my life. And who knows what'll change in the coming months and years.
by the way, before we continue, I also want to thank the Butler brothers for being on the podcast. Right. I'm sorry, I completely forgot. Forgot.
And Nigel, we love you. Yeah, you guys are great too.
I said the Butler brothers, so Stuart and Nigel. Yeah. But want to thank both of them for coming on, and you should go check out their new YouTube movie that actually has both Joseph and I in. We're both Jedi Masters in it.
I'm a Sith Lord. Don't you lie about me, John.
Okay. Okay. You're a Sith Lord. I'm a Jedi Master, I believe. And I believe it's called Star Wars Nexus Stone. Is that what it's called?
I believe. I think it's Nexus Stone Return.
Okay.
Something to that effect.
Definitely go check out their movie that they made. It's a 15-minute film. Both Joseph and I make appearances in it. We shot this while I was actually up in Rochester, and so you're definitely going to want to check that out. We had a blast doing that with them. And so we really hope you guys go check that out. Joseph, this podcast is going to end. What are your future endeavors that you plan on going into that maybe the public can follow in on?
Yeah, so I was actually thinking of starting a new YouTube channel.
Really? Called what? About what? What would you be posting about?
I think that I have a few ideas, so none of this is set in stone. I was thinking about calling it the Bible School Chronicles, right? Because I feel like a lot of people have a lot of ideas about what it's like being in Bible school, and it's not like no one actually has real perspective unless they've done it.
So why a YouTube channel and not a podcast?
Well, number one, I wouldn't know how to run a podcast without you. I'll keep it real with you.
Let's be honest, though. Would you really know how to run a YouTube channel without me?
That's true, too. And number two, I don't need to pay for a YouTube channel.
That's fair. Yeah. You guys may have not known this or not, but I pay for this podcast every month, and that's an important thing to bring up because obviously we were not renewing our subscription to the podcast, to our host. To keep the podcast up and alive. So you might be wondering what happens to all the episodes. Well, they get deleted. So what's going to happen is that right now you can go to our... So we run through a website called Podbean. And so the best way to make sure you can keep our episodes right now for free is... the jnjpodcast.podbean.com. All 37 episodes are posted right there, and there's a little download link next to every episode. So if there was an episode you liked, or if you want to keep the whole series, you can actually just go on there and download whatever episodes you want, and you'll have them forever, which is great. And I'll make sure I'm going to do that because I feel like we created something special here, and that's not something I want to lose. I don't want to lose the episodes.
Yeah, and also it can go up to YouTube, right?
I am over the course of time, because it's 37 episodes. It's a long time to make. I am going to do my best to take all the episodes and put them on on YouTube, so you can go and watch them. I'm sorry, listen to them for free right through YouTube. The other thing I'm thinking about doing is selling them. If you want to buy the episode, if you want a hard copy on a CD, we can also we might sell that, and Joseph and I would split the profits. What do you think about that, Joe?
Honestly, John, I would just give you the profits for that because you paid for the podcast, and I think that in the end, that's what you deserve that.
No, I wouldn't. I would never. At the end of the day, the J&J podcast is our work, and I believe you should be paid for your work. That's why the T-shirts were split 50-50, and if we sell these CDs, we'll sell them 50-50 as well. I would never...
90-10, I get the 90, you get the 10. No, I'm kidding.
No, 50-50, of course. If you ever wanted a physical edition of it, we can make that happen as well. That's just a maybe. I don't know if anybody buys CDs. I buy CDs, but...
Going on a road trip through the mountains, you don't get really good Wi-Fi signal up in those mountains. You can't, go into your internet, and, you just want to hit it old school. And you want a CD, and you're thinking, well, what could I do? And the best podcast in the world comes to your mind. Order one of our CDs.
Yeah.
And while you're at it, go get some coffee and buy one of our mugs. You know what? You might as well look stylish while you're drinking and listening. So go get one of our T-shirts or hoodies.
Your winter's coming up. You got to get your hoodie. We need to get rid of this stuff. You can go over to jnjpodcast.spreadshirt.com to buy all of our official merchandise. Guys, please buy it.
Imagine, John, if we became like Van Gogh and we only became famous after we died.
It could happen.
Stranger things have happened, like you being born.
But please go online, buy our merchandise. Would be greatly appreciated. You'd have the nostalgia. You're like, oh, I listened to the J&J podcast while it was running. Okay.
Right.
It would be nice if you guys want to do that. That'd be great. But it's a sad day.
Can we get background music for this episode, John?
Like what type of background music?
I was thinking, I don't know if we can do this just because it might be copyrighted. Once again, I don't know. I'm not the technical person here. You are, but what do you think about "See You Again"?
See you again. Oh, yeah. No, we cannot do that. Yeah.
Okay.
I wish. Yeah, but it's and we also want to thank Vader Boris, a good friend of mine, who made our intro music, our podcast intro music that you hear every single podcast. He donated his time and he made that for us. So thank you so much, Vader, for doing that for us.
Who did our logo?
Yes, our good friend Declan Lestat, who runs his own logo business. So you definitely want to go online, Declan, DECLAN, Lestat, LESTAT. Hit him up if you like our logo that he did such an incredible job on. Definitely hit him up to do your logo.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we love you, and we just want to make that clear that this isn't done lightly.
It's not, and it's. I don't even know how much to tell you. It's so bothersome to me that I just don't want to end. You know what I mean? I've done so much work for this show. You have no clue the amount of hours, the amount of time, the amount of money that I've put into this show. To watch it all go away is very disturbing to me, because when I start a project, I want to bring it to the very top, and I do that with all my
John,
projects.
I wouldn't view this as this going away. This isn't going away. It's going on YouTube, right? People are going to download it. It's going. Gosh darn it, man! It's going to be on CD. Okay, archaeologists are going to be looking through the ruins of Staten Island someday and find our podcast.
Yeah, but it is very bothersome to me, because when I start a project, and this is what this is, a podcast. It's a project. When I start a project, I make sure I do my very best at it. and I feel like by ending this show with, and I feel is premature, it didn't hit its full potential, I feel like. And
But
that's,
someday it might.
it's something that's very bothersome with me, myself, and I. You know, whenever I try to do something, I try to do it the best I possibly can. And I feel like by this show ending, it's one of the first times when it comes down to, you know, work that I've failed. You know, I look at this as work. I look at this as a project. I look at this as something I want to do. And so I do feel like I failed. And that's something that bothers me immensely.
And I want to encourage you, John, you didn't fail. Like, if anybody failed here, it was me.
But I did feel like we could fix the show, and I feel like I just wasn't given that opportunity.
And I want you to know, like, I gave us every opportunity, not even you, because you did a lot. I gave us every opportunity, and there's just, I feel like I've taken it to the absolute limit that I can take it.
It's hard. It really is.
It's definitely hard.
It's, you know, I will never forget what we did. You know, the podcast became part of at least my life. It became, you know, when you're doing something every week, when it becomes a weekly thing that you're doing for 8 months, it becomes part of your routine in life. And it's going to be crazy not recording the podcast every week and not having to edit the show and to work on it and to promote and to post and to put it on all these different websites and everything. And to, you know, it's going to be weird not having to do that. And I don't know how to feel about it. Right now, I'm feeling like, you know, it means I failed. You know, next week I may feel different, you know?
You know, one week you might wake up and you might feel, I want to murder Joe.
It may be, and maybe you'll read in the news, Joe Vasello from the J&J podcast was murdered last night. Who knows? It could happen. you know, Joe, if Joe, somehow, some way, if you do get murdered somehow, they're going to use this recording on me.
They really will, though. And I want you to know, John, that I wouldn't want to be murdered by anyone other than you.
Just to be clear, because there are people out there that take jokes way too seriously, I would never harm my best friend. I would only push him.
Nobody tried to push me in front of a car.
You did the same thing, though.
I got a gun to my head too.
Whoa. Okay, it wasn't loaded.
I said unloaded gun.
An unloaded gun, right? It's like
it was unloaded.
It's
I
like
didn't know it was unloaded.
You didn't know, but I did. It's like putting an unsharpened knife. It's not going to do anything.
It definitely gave me a cool story to tell. Now I can tell people I've had a gun shoved to my head.
You and Ryan Lochte, right?
Oh,
it's this whole thing is bittersweet, though. Stop choking. Nobody wants to hear you choke at all.
That's not what you just said. See, ladies and gentlemen, I'm dying. It's all John. Now
Hey,
who
John.
wants to edit what out of the podcast, John?
I'm not editing anything.
They find me dead tomorrow. John Madigan. You said on the J&J podcast.
Hey, Joe, does this smell like chloroform? No, of course I would never murder my best friend. It's like one of the jokes that I wrote. No, you know what? Never mind. I'm not going to tell this because Joe's just going to make me cut it out anyway. But it's this is very bittersweet. I can tell you, it's definitely made me depressed. I'm not happy, and you know, I do I would love. I want to do more within the podcasting. I have a few ideas for a few shows that I hope you guys come and join me on. I'd love to bring these listeners, to new shows that I have in mind. And yeah.
I'm not sure what else is to say.
Joe, what was one of your favorite moments on the podcast?
Oh gosh, one of my favorite moments. Definitely one of my favorite moments is when you called me up and you were like, "Bro, we just broke 1,000 downloads."
Oh my God, I'll never forget that day. I'll never forget that. We were I was walking to the bus stop, and just the night beforehand, I know we had made it to 980 downloads. And so, of course, I was very excited. The podcast was going at a very rapid pace at this moment. And then I checked it, and we were at 1,002 or something. And I was walking to the bus stop, and I literally jumped up for joy. And it was I didn't even care what time it was. I called up Joe, and I told him dude, we broke 1,000 downloads. And Joseph, you were so happy and ecstatic, and we were so proud of ourselves for doing that. That was a big moment for the podcast. It was a big moment. It was really just such a good. It was just such a very joyous. We were really proud of the podcast at that moment, because at that moment we both felt like we really created something special. Yeah,
we did.
And I hope. If we just made one of you laugh, that makes my heart feel great. It just makes my feel.
And if one person came to Jesus through us,
yeah, because that's what the downloads show. I know, but if somebody came to Jesus because of Joe's preaching, that's great. I hope somebody did. If one person did, I feel like Joe would say that his mission was complete.
And please, guys, email us some of your favorite moments.
Yeah, the email will stay up, but the podcast will not. So if you do have a favorite episode, or you want to go back and download all the episodes for free, go to the jnjpodcast.podbean.com. That link will be in the description of this week's episode. You can click on it, and then next to every episode's posted there. There's a little download link, and this will be active until the last week of September. And then after that, you'll either have to listen to it on YouTube, or if you're old school like me, buy the CD that we might be coming out with. And that CD will have both of our intro musics, the old one and the new one, and it'll have every single episode, and maybe we can throw in some little bonus features on there that you can't find on YouTube, bonus topics and discussions and segments, because I still have so many of the audio files. I think I may actually have all of them. I think I may have all the audio files, the original audio files from every episode, and that would be really cool to just maybe throw in some extra segments that maybe we just didn't get a chance to post. I mean, what do you think about that, Joe?
I think that'd be interesting. Just stay away from the Irish, please.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's like we're doing this. I don't even want to click on stop. I don't even want to click on stop recording.
I think it's time, John. How about this? How about we do the last "Would you eat for lunch"? We do the last Bible time with Joe, and then we do the last Peace Out Cubs.
And recommendations.
Oh, and recommendations. How could we forget those?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's a little short. Right now we're at 46 minutes.
All right. Let's try it. Let's go.
Yeah. But,
So what do you have for lunch today?
I was in Brooklyn today, and so I had Chinese food from my favorite Chinese food place, China New Star in Brooklyn. And Joe, you did get a chance to try it, right? Were you a fan of it, or were you not impressed?
I thought it was good. I didn't think it was the best Chinese food I've ever eaten, but I thought it was good.
Okay. And what did you have for lunch today?
You're gonna call me fat for this.
Because we're both trying to lose weight, right, Joe?
Yes, yes. I had a sandwich, and in the sandwich was an omelet with cheese, jalapeno ranch sauce, and with a hash brown in the middle, and then I had an ice cream float.
Where the hell did you get this?
Oh, in my cafeteria.
Wow. All right. Yep. I can tell you my school certainly doesn't have anything like that. Yeah. And what would you recommend for our fans? The very last one. What would you recommend for our fans to watch or read or anything?
I got to go old fashioned with this one. I would recommend the Bible.
Now, have you recommended the Bible before as your recommendation of the week? I feel like that's a fair closing statement.
Yeah.
So now anything I recommend is just going to be second, right?
I don't know, John. I mean, can you beat the Bible? Can you do it?
I recommend God. God himself. Just the man.
There you go. You recommend Jesus, ladies and gentlemen, except Jesus.
And I would like to also recommend, give a little plug to my uncle's new cake and cupcake business, Cream Blossoms. And I guess you had to do your Bible time with Joe.
Yeah. I'm gonna go old fashioned. John 3:16. For God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him shall not die but have everlasting life.
Fair enough. Now, Joseph, I guess before we leave, because I really don't want to leave, where can people find you on social media so they can keep in contact with you? What is the best way to reach out to you?
Hit me up on Facebook.
Joseph Vassallo, just Joseph Vassallo?
Yeah, Joseph Vassallo, not Joey Vassallo. That's my dad. Joseph Vassallo, or you could hit up my YouTube channel, Carrying the Cross 17 at gmail.com. Either one of those.
Anything else?
No.
Okay. If you want to reach me, my personal email is John, John, at jmadigan.com. That's John at jmadigan.com. All my social media, I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, you name it, I'm on it, is at jmadigan715. It's all the same on every one of them. My YouTube channel is John Madigan Official, and my website is www.jmadigan.com. Yeah,
Peace out, Cub Scout.
anything else you want to talk about? Is there anything else? I mean, it kills me. It kills me to press that button, man. We're gonna miss all of you.
Do it. Peer pressure.
No, guys. I'm really gonna miss you. I'm gonna miss you, and I'm gonna miss this. And I don't want to press this button, but it's unfortunately looking like something I have to do. So guys, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for tuning into this podcast each and every week. Thank you for everything, and I'm so sorry. And I'm so sorry. We love you. Thank you. Peace out, Cub Scout.
Peace out, Cub Scout.